Good afternoon and welcome to Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin. We are broadcasting from Rigel Studios here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is about guns, related politics, and self-defense issues. Fired Up is on our website, firedupwithbobirwin.com, and the American Guns and Glory Network. It's also separately on YouTube and numerous other media. A new show is presented every Thursday at around 5 p.m. Pacific time. Our audio feed is rebroadcast for radio listeners Saturdays at noon on the Nevada Talk Network. You can check out KELY1230.com for a station in your area. That's KELY1230.com. If you have questions or comments, you can send an email to me, Bob at bob@firedupmail.com. Again, that's bob@firedupmail.com. Or leave a message on my office recorder, 702-257-1060. That's 702-257-1060. If you leave contact information, I will respond by email, text, or telephone. My recorder doesn't pick up telephone numbers. You need to say it into the recording, please. Questions directed to our guest can go to his website, which we'll give you in just a moment. There are several hundred defensive uses of firearms every week in the United States, rarely truthfully covered by mainstream media. We always present a few for our listeners' education. Most of these are good shootings. Some are questionable. Sometimes they're just plain wrong. But I picked them out because they're educational for those of you who keep a gun in your home or carry one for self-defense. Individual incidents are adjudicated under local law. Please remember that. The advice here might not apply to listeners in different jurisdictions. Stories are often paraphrased by me for clarity by translation from police jargon, I can say that, lawyer speak, or a lot of regional dialects around the United States into more plain standard American English. The incidents are as reported, except the names of the participants, the good guys and bad guys, are omitted. My guest today is Nevada and California attorney, firearms specialist attorney, Donald J. Green. Don, if you would, a bit of your background.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob, for your listeners and viewers. My name is Don Green, and in 13 days, I'll begin my 37th year of practicing law. This is the longest job I've ever had. Anyway, the emphasis of my practice is firearms-related issues, whether you're charged with using a firearm in the commission of a crime, or you've been denied, let's say, a firearm through a federal firearms licensee, or you've been denied a federal firearms license where you want to sell guns. We're also involved in various aspects of litigation involving firearms, from everything from taxation to the new background check law to the advising and being part of the litigation in California on the magazine ban, which is still being litigated in California. And you can reach me on my direct cellular 24 hours a day, 702-409-8239. Thanks, Bob.
And he does answer that. Trust me. I've called him at 4 in the morning, and he grudgingly says, who's bothering me at 4 in the morning? But he answers. This first story comes to us from WPTA. It's a Channel 21. A lady named Corrine Rose reported December 9th, 2019, in Fort Wayne, Indiana. A resident told police at about 1 p.m. Thursday afternoon he heard two men singing Christmas carols as they knocked on the door. This is a Christmas story. They're carolers at his door. They knocked on the door, and when he didn't respond, they tried to kick it in. The homeowner reportedly shot through his front door to keep the intruders out. They then turned and fled, one possibly in an older model car. A neighbor in the Lincoln Village subdivision says he talked with the shaken homeowner after the police left. He reported they heard the doorbell ring, they heard what appeared to be pounding on the door, and then they saw the door being kicked in or attempted to be kicked in, and that's when the individual fired his weapon into the door or the door area. As always, others living nearby commented about that nothing ever happens in their neighborhood. One said I didn't think it was possible that something like that would happen in this neighborhood. Another said he installed the new video doorbell this weekend, which he'd ordered before the shooting across the street. Reports indicate that a person showed up at a hospital shortly after the attempted break-in with a gunshot wound. Police went over and questioned him, obviously. Police have not arrested anyone in the incident. If you know anything about this, you're asked to call their local Crime Stoppers at their area code, which I didn't write down in the outline, and that's 436-STOP. I'll correct that when I put this show on the website. Christmas caroling as a ruse to get into anybody's home. Isn't that nice for this time of year? A new wrinkle in seasonal crime. Hopefully the door he fired through was transparent in some degree. Otherwise, his reaction to this firing through the door is beyond foolish. I can't imagine somebody doing that. Mr. Green, can you?
I can't make sense of how he fired. Now, we don't know whether he fired through the threshold of the door or whether he fired through the door itself. But if you fired through the threshold of the door's already been kicked in, people are there, these alleged Christmas carolers, that's probably going to be upheld as a good shooting. Now, shooting through the door, you've taught, and I advise, is not a good idea unless, as society as we know it, has totally broken down and we're in the midst of some civil war. But notice, Bob, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 10 days ago, broad daylight, Fort Wayne, Indiana. Nice, probably middle America. These things are happening. And they're happening in such a brazen way. When the guy says it's in the Lincoln Village subdivision, now we don't know whether this is an upscale neighborhood. Let's assume that it is. So they're going there and they're just randomly kicking in doors, or do they target the homeowner? Again, this time of year, don't leave the packages in the car, cover them up. Get a bunch of clean clothes and throw them on top of the packages as if you've got some dirty laundry. Do anything to prevent this, or just don't tell your neighbors what you're getting for Christmas. And notice that this man, one person has a gunshot. We don't know whether he was the intruder, but someone showed up shortly with a gunshot wound at a local hospital. And in Nevada, the police are automatically called whenever there's a gunshot wound. So again, it's under investigation. But this story is not going to appear next to a broadcast of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer on national TV, because it's either too bad or it's too good to be true for anti-gunners. But it's questionable as to the shooting. Again, through the threshold where the door was already kicked in, or whether it was the door. This is a question of timing. Very important for the defense to break this down.
Yeah. This is really a seasonal crime. It just struck me that what a ruse to use to get into somebody's house to be a Christmas caroler. It's just amazing. And as far as the police calling, I know they do it here. I would gotta suspect that that's universal across the United States and Canada. That if you show up with a gunshot wound, no matter how good your story is, they're going to call the police and have the police interview you. That's like a really great story as to how your gun went off and you shot yourself in the back of the shoulder. It was a little awkward, but it doesn't matter. The police are coming. Find a veterinarian. Now we're going to break for just a word from some of our friends and associates. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Freestyle Martial Arts, located at Jones and Russell here in Las Vegas. You can reach them at 702-551-9009. That's 702-551-9009. CCS Gunsmithing. Chris Eifelt, the man who does all the NRA help, he's at 2216 South Rainbow Boulevard near Sahara. He can be reached at 702-365-1732. Once again, 702-365-1732. Jerry Creed, a trust attorney. If you have a firearms trust or need one, this is your guy. You can reach Jerry at 702-806-7777. That is 702-806-7777. CCW Maggie is found all over the internet. You can reach her by phone at 702-375-5900. That's 702-375-5900. All sorts of firearms training, ladies only classes. She is the best of the best. Call CCW Maggie. And we are back. This is from CBS TV 11 on December 11th this year, 2019, in Dallas, Texas. On a Monday, this is northeastern Dallas, a delivery driver was shot 5 times while dropping off food at the Pearl at Midtown Apartments in northeast Dallas. He's expected to survive, and that subject was arrested at the scene. The very next night, another delivery driver was attacked in northeast Dallas. Police say this robbery happened around 10 p.m. on Tuesday in the 8100 block of Southwestern Boulevard near Greensville Avenue, if you know where that is. This time, the delivery driver was legally armed and fired at the suspects. The two 15-year-old suspects allegedly tried to rob, I can't give the name, but it rhymes with Mama John's, the pizza delivery driver at gunpoint, but the driver had a gun and shot at them to fend them off. One of them died from his injuries. The other was treated at the hospital. The surviving suspect was taken into custody and charged with aggravated robbery. I'm sure he'll be charged with a few other things. Police said the driver was not injured and he was released after detectives interviewed him and several witnesses. The difference between these two pizza delivery victims is crystal clear. The armed victim survives uninjured. The unarmed victim is hospitalized. It's truly unfortunate that we are constantly dealing with armed and vicious teenagers. That often puts a guilt trip on those who must defend themselves. The first rule here, we talk about legality of shootings and what to do and what not to do, but the legality in reality doesn't matter if you're dead. First, you got to survive the attack, then worry about the legal issues, then call Don Green to help you out. But first, you got to be alive. So don't try and obey. I just put that in as a footnote as I was writing this. Don't try and obey all the rules and get yourself killed. First, survive. Now, Mr. Green, pizza.
On the first shooting, we don't have too many facts
Nope.
as to why he was shot, where he was shot, and the timing. But it does show that he was dropping off food, so someone was expecting him, or it was just by chance that they saw the delivery driver and they were going to get a few dollars. How much money can they get out of it? Let's look at the second shooting. This is where the delivery driver for the pizza guy was legally armed. In California, would this be a good shooting? Technically, yes. If, in fact, the driver was authorized to carry that firearm during in relation to the course of his employment. In California, it's not automatic that you're going to get a CCW. And if you do get a carry concealed weapon permit in California, it's going to be limited, perhaps to even the county in which you're working. So in Texas, this probably is a good shooting by the delivery driver. Again, legally armed. But let's look at the suspects. 15 years old. In the past 2 weeks, we've had a couple of instances in which there were teenagers who were just brazenly trying to rob people, attack people. for just literally pennies. And again, how much money can a pizza driver be carrying? Probably less than $100, maybe a little bit more. But when the one suspect was shot and later died at a local hospital and succumbed to the injuries, what happens to the second suspect? Well, in Nevada and in California, the second suspect would be charged with felony murder. Felony murder is the commission of a murder. You don't have to do the killing during an inherently dangerous felony, such as robbery, burglary, arson, kidnapping, sexual assault. In this case, it was robbery. So in Nevada and California, most certainly, that the suspect can be charged with the felony murder of his own compatriot, even though the firing was done by a legally authorized person. That might be fine for negotiations, but you're still going to get charged because the murder, that is the killing, occurred during and in relation to a very violent crime. And it is, again, assuming that the driver was legally armed in California or Nevada, this would be a good showing. This would be a good shooting.
Yep, I agree. And I'm sure there are more charges coming against this guy. The felony and murder charge is rather obvious. This incident just happened when I wrote this report, so they haven't even got it through the DA's office yet. But you can expect it is coming. We're going to break here for a brief word from some of our friends and associates. We'll be right back. Attorney Donald J. Green, a common guest of mine on Fired Up. He can be reached at 702-409-8239. He specializes in gun case litigation. He is your man, Don Green, 702-409-8239. At Ricardo's Restaurant, where you'll usually find me eating lunch every day if I could get there, they're at the corner of Flamingo and Decatur here in Las Vegas. You can reach them at 702-227-9100. That's 702-227-9100. And Battlefield Vegas, my new kind of home for this show. They're on Circus Drive, directly behind the Circus Hotel and Casino. You can find them there with CCW classes and an amazing place for gun rentals, everything you could possibly imagine. Check out, if you're in town as a tourist, check out battlefieldvegas.com. And we are back. This third story comes to us from WFLA TV8, FLA. It's in Florida. Did you figure that out? WFLA TV8 on your side reported on December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day, 2019, in Nokomis, Florida, a Sarasota deputy shot and killed a man found struggling with his screaming wife at an RV park on early Saturday morning. This is an unfortunate situation. It's unfortunate there was a weapon involved, a gun, said Sheriff Tom Knight. The deputy responded to a 911 call at the Palms and Pines Mobile and RV Park around 12:40 a.m., just before 1 o'clock in the morning. The caller mentioned hearing yelling and possible gunshots. When the deputy arrived, he found the suspect, later identified as a 65-year-old, on top of a screaming woman. He entered the house, and they're on the floor, and he's on top of her. The deputy ordered the suspect to get off of her, but he did not comply. The suspect revealed he had a handgun, which he then refused to drop. He even told the deputy to shoot him while he was placing the gun inside his own mouth. Does training cover this? The deputy continued to order the suspect to remove the gun from his mouth. The 65-year-old was then grabbed from behind by a witness, somebody else in the house, and a struggle ensued between the witness and the guy. During the struggle, the deputy said the 65-year-old pointed the gun at him, the deputy, which is when the deputy shot and killed the guy, the perp in this case. Dangerous situations become, now this is the sheriff talking, dangerous situations become worse when citizens get involved in this way, Sheriff Knight stressed. Deputies and police officers rely on their training, their orders, their de-escalation, and everything that they're doing. Having a citizen get involved usually doesn't help. The 65-year-old's wife was treated for minor injuries and released. It seems to me, there's a little explanation on this story. Seems to me the witness intervention saved the woman's life. The helpful witness clearly knew who was who and acted correctly. I went to find a follow-up story, a better quote from Sheriff Knight. I couldn't find anything. It apparently has been whitewashed from the entire internet. The sheriff taking the opinion that citizens should not get involved. In this case, I believe personally the citizen was absolutely right and saved this woman's life. And I looked for something from the sheriff to further clarify his position that citizens should get out of the way because they don't have training, which I find absolutely wrong in this case. But again, there are details missing. I couldn't pull it back up, so we're working with very little information on this case. I just wanted to present it that sometimes citizens help, and we've done numerous stories about that on this show. Mr. Green.
Bob, I'm taking the opposite opinion as to the citizen.
Okay.
You and I stress, not only do you have to face possible criminal charges when you use a firearm, or that you're going to be detained, you're going to be handcuffed, you have to look at the civil ramifications. And in this case, what was the cause of the suspect rotating his body around with the firearm so that the firearm appeared to be pointed at the deputy? Was it the fact that the concerned citizen had grabbed the suspect from behind? Is that what it said? Grabbed him from behind?
Right.
And perhaps is rotating his body so that at that moment in time, the body and the hand rotate in front of the deputy, and then the deputy sees the situation and shoots. I can see that being presented to a civil jury as the direct cause of the deputy shooting in anger, shooting an innocent man. This is going to happen, and they're going to blame you as the witness for causing this to happen, and they're going to blame the police officer for that, because you have to look at was his rotating the body of the suspect into position which caused the deputy to perceive that at that moment. Now, the deputy might get off, there might be a settlement, but that concerned citizen's got a real problem here, especially in California or New York, some of these other liberal cases. In fact, there was something on TV the other day where a guy in a federal case during trial had grabbed his pen from his lawyer and ran towards the witness on the witness stand in federal court and tried to stab the witness, and a U.S. Marshal shot the suspect 4 times. And obviously this is in a federal courtroom, and the family is suing the federal government because the man who was on trial, who was going to run up and stab the victim, was shot illegally or shot in violation of his civil rights. So you can expect this. This is going to happen. That's my take on it, Bob, that your listeners and your viewers have got to pay attention. And at that moment of truth, there's a million things that got to go through their mind.
No, I understand your point exactly, and it's entirely possible. As I said, I couldn't pull this up again to find it, to get more details on the why and what happened. I will comment, having been a bailiff for 26 years of my life, that in the case Don just described, I'd have shot the guy too. And somebody's charging a witness with anything, any kind of weapon they could stab him with, that's what's going to happen. The bailiff has to take action to keep people in the courtroom from getting killed. And hopefully, he's not in real trouble over that. Maybe that's a case I can't work that case because I was a bailiff. Yeah. But if you're looking for a trial consultant, my number's on the show. We're about at the end here. I want to give Don a few minutes to update you on some of the upcoming gun shows. We're apparently not at the end of gun shows in Nevada as was threatened, depending on what happens in the legislature and who wins what. But we've got some shows coming up.
That's correct, Bob. And we have the Western Trails gun shows. They're going to be, according to what I've been told, and this is just a few weeks ago, the Western Trails is going to have gun shows out at that. It's at the Gold Strike or the Gold Spike, just out of Boulder City before you get to the lake. It's a great venue. And in speaking with some people at the last gun show, apparently there's a contract in place for at least 4 and possibly 8 gun shows at Arizona Charlie's on Decatur Boulevard in Las Vegas, which will be a great venue. It's a small show, but it'll fill that room. So there's possibly at least 8 and possibly 12 gun shows. So once a month for next year, plus the Great Western gun show, which comes out of Missouri area, has a show scheduled in February of 2020. And it looks like they might have one also in May or June. But it looks like the gun shows are still in business. Maybe they're not going to be in the big hotels on the Strip or just off the Strip on the Boulder Strip like they used to be at the Cannery or way out by the Santa Fe. But at least there will be gun shows where legitimate, law-abiding gun owners can go and recreate themselves, to use Caesar's words. So we haven't seen the end of gun shows.
And Don and I will be at the last gun show this year, which is at Palace Station.
This weekend.
Still, from this broadcast, this weekend. So we will be there and hopefully have some more updates on some of this stuff. And I appreciate you watching. You can check out, let me see where time is. Oh, we're right good. You can check out our recent shows at firedupwithboberwin.com. It contains a dozen or a bit more recent shows you could look at. Please patronize our friends and supporters. They help keep the show on the air. We'll be back next Thursday on our website, firedupwithboberwin.com, and on YouTube at the American Guns and Glory Network, and numerous other websites, TV stations, and radio stations. While watching any of the media, please just click on subscribe, and new shows will be sent automatically to your computer or your cell phone. Please forward these broadcasts to your friends. And once again, our logo merchandise for Fired Up, hats and T-shirts and books and so forth, are available at Battlefield Vegas, which is just behind Circus on the Las Vegas Strip. Thank you all for watching Fired Up. We will be back next week. Hopefully we'll see you at the gun show at Palace Station this weekend. Thank you, Don, for being here again.
Thank you, Bob.
Appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure.
We will be there. Have a good evening.